Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Front Row Fridays, and happy Ramadan to those of you who are celebrating. I'm so excited today to be able to speak with Fatou Y Jaiteh about the power of youth. We call this Front Row Fridays for two reasons. One, it gives you a front row seat to learn from the ultimate girl experts all around the world. And two, because the front row is the name of our monthly giving community. The front row is keeping She's the First going with emergency programs for girls. And now through this Tuesday, our board chair, Tara Abrahams, will be matching all new monthly donations up to $2,500 in honor of Giving Tuesday Now, which is a global day of giving that's going to be taking place on May 5th. So if you have the means to join the front row, starting at $5 a month, now is a great time to do it because you can double your investment. And you can do that by going to this website, she'sthefirst.org/front row. I'm excited to introduce our guest, Fatou Y, who represents Starfish International, a partner we work with in the Gambia. You may remember them from a few weeks ago when we had their co-founder on. And Fatou Y is certified in community assessment. She's also the first woman in her family to go to university. I've had the opportunity to watch Fatou Y grow from a Starfish girl in the program to literally running the youth programs as the assistant director. And now she's working on the development side of the organization as development director, all while being a youth leader herself. So I'd love to bring Fatou Y into the stream.
Hello, everyone.
And Fatou Y, I know you're fasting right now, so we're especially appreciative of you bringing your energy and being with us today.
Thank you. I'm doing all right.
So I'd love to kick this off just for people who don't know about Starfish. Can you tell us a little bit about the program and give us some background?
Yes. So I am glad to be here. And like Auntie Christen rightly said, I am representing Starfish International. We're a nonprofit organization in the Gambia in West Africa. And the program is 10 years old now. It was started by a Gambian lady called Mami Yasin with her husband. And they basically came back to the Gambia to invest in girls and to uplift them. And the target group is basically girls who, come from financially challenged backgrounds, who are facing social and economic issues and are at risk of dropping out. So every year we interview and enroll 100 girls, and for the past 5 years we've also added some boys into the program to just encourage partnership. But every year overall we work with 130 students from financially challenged backgrounds, and we look at different programs to uplift them. This includes a business training, it includes a scholarship package, it includes tutorials, a mentorship program, and community service. Everything we do is anchored on character development because we realize that we need to be able to train youth who will come back to our communities and give it their all. So basically that is Starfish, and I was one of the students in the program, like Auntie Christen said, and now I am a mentor and a development director. It's been the most rewarding experience of my life.
And today we're talking a bit about youth and the power of youth. And Fatou Y, I know you are personally an incredible example of this. So I'd love to take a moment just for you to talk about your own journey and your own path, if you're willing to share a little bit.
Yes. So overall, I've been in the program for 10 years, but I was in the 9th grade when Starfish was introduced into the school that I attended. And I remember the first few days I just went because a lot of my friends were going to the program. But later I realized that, okay, I know I am doing well in school, but I also need skills and I need to have a voice. Because even though I was excelling in school, when I want to stand up to a boy or to make my own decisions, it didn't go as well as I would have loved it to go. So when I met the co-founder, she was an example of a Gambian woman, who was born and raised in our communities, and she went to the US and got an education, but she came back to the Gambia to invest in girls. And I saw her making her own choices, and so I was like, I would like to be somebody like this. And in order to do that, I knew that I needed to do more, and that includes, being able to speak for myself, being able to develop my character, giving back to my community to show them that I am a girl, but yes, there are a lot of things I can accomplish and do. So Starfish became a heaven for me back in school, and I would use the library to come and read when I'm, not having a good time at home. And I had Auntie Yasin as a mentor, And when I graduated, I was like, I think I want to be a mentor for, all the girls out there who probably are not finding their voices or cannot use their voices. My story, my narrative, I've always wanted to change it because actually my mom got married when she was 15. And always I've been like, I want my story to be different and not just, with regards to early marriage, but I want to invest in my younger siblings. I want them to go to school, even though my dad is saying they should not go to school. So when I graduated high school, I found my voice. I enrolled myself in the university. I came back to Starfish and started, serving as an operations manager and going out into the community. So all of a sudden, I was this girl who would just pick her bag and go to school. And then few months later, I was into people's houses and having conversations and, having girls who are calling me their mentor. It was I don't know, it was a challenging transformation, but it's all worth it now, looking back at who they are as people in the community. So that has been my journey, and I am really glad I've been able to travel it.
Well, and you're a total powerhouse now, having been to Starfish and seen you in your element with the other girls, with the mentors. It's something that looks so natural to you. But of course, so many of those skills came from your time at the program. Yeah. So I would love to talk a little bit about our kind of current events here. And so as we look at the spread of coronavirus, and we were talking just before this call that there are only about 12 confirmed cases. Is that what you said in the Gambia? How many?
Yes.
Yeah. We have so it's still a fairly low spread, although there's a lot of concern about community spread and community transfer now. But Starfish has already begun implementing for a number of weeks now programs to help slow the spread of coronavirus. And I'm wondering if you can just tell us a little bit about the programs that you and the mentors that you work with have been putting into place.
Yes. So the first thing we actually did was to look at what we can do when we heard that the coronavirus was in Africa, even before it came to the Gambia. And so we got all our students and our mentors, and we dedicated a week to training and research. And we just gave them information on what the virus is, how they can prevent themselves, the signs and symptoms. And then we went into what actions they can take, if the coronavirus happens to reach the Gambia. And so one of the first things we did was helping them to set up hand washing stations. And we also looked at hand washing techniques, effective hand washing techniques, because it's one thing to tell somebody, okay, you have to wash your hands every now and then, but it's another to actually show them, how they can use disinfectants, mix it with water, and be able to, wash their hands for 20 seconds at least. So all those were, detailed information that we gave our students, and when they went back into their homes, they were able to implement it. Right from that, the government made the announcement of having people stay at home. So we started establishing the online classes and the online forums. And in these forums, we were able to do consultation and reflections where the students talked about how their hand washing stations were going, how their education at home was going. And it was able to give us information that we used to be able to plan our programs ahead. Some of them were having issues with, for example, telling their elderly people, wash your hands, because they see them as, okay, you are a kid, what are you telling me to do? I know how to wash my hands and all of that. But we told them that it's their responsibility to keep themselves safe and to give out the information that they received at Starfish. We also did online education forums, for the subjects that they were taking in school, because we know if we didn't implement that, some of them might want to take study classes outside their homes and all of that. So Starfish established these online forums where each of them were having, every day they had English, math, science, whatever subjects they were taking in school. And then apart from that, we also reached out to our chapter students in all the regions of the Gambia. So we have about 8 regions in the Gambia, from the urban areas to the rural areas. Our students across the country, and we enlightened them, and we also guided them to set up their own hand washing stations. And they took videos and images and sent them back to us. We've also been engaged in mask making for our staff and supporters, also making videos that show how to make masks and then share it with these students, because a lot of them have, the local fabric at their disposal. So by using it, they can just use some, mask that even if it doesn't prevent them from getting it, but they're able to use it if they don't know whether they have the virus or not, so that other people will not have it. We've also been doing soap making, to serve the community with disinfectants. We've been producing videos and audios in the local languages. And in doing this, we try to look at the languages that a lot of the people speak, but we are also aware of the minority groups, because we know a lot of these informations are written text, and if an information comes from the WHO, most of the times it's written in English. So we take it as our job to transcribe these messages into the local languages. And we also do skits, we do poems, and all these are ways that we engage our community members. We've also been very active with radio programs. So we have an hour program every Sunday on a national radio forum, and we use it to just dive into different topics, not just what the coronavirus is, because a lot of people are aware of that. But what is the value of nutrition? What do you have at your disposal that you can use to strengthen your immune system? What are some issues to also consider with regards to girls staying at home, such as abuse and violence? Are we considering people's mental well-being? Are we considering conflict resolutions? All of these things, are topics that we've been talking about on the radio forums.
I think this is such an important point, and it's something that at She's the First we've been talking about a lot, which is that when we think about responding to the coronavirus, there is a list of ways that we really need to be thinking about approaching communities, and especially marginalized or vulnerable communities. One of the pieces you mentioned is making sure that you're translating information into local languages, and not just the main languages, but making sure that everyone can receive this information, everyone understands what's happening. And I think for me, there are two big takeaways here, and they're points we've been pushing it at She's the First constantly throughout this epidemic. But the first point is that, a lot of these processes that Starfish is putting into place are the same processes that you used during Ebola from 2014 to 2016. And, luckily Ebola didn't get to the Gambia at that point, but you were ready. The Gambia was ready in understanding the measures that needed to be taken. And there's so much that we can learn from looking at past epidemics and understanding how they impact community and girls. And then the second point is just that local community organizations, grassroots organizations, and especially girls' organizations are so well placed in order to slow the spread of coronavirus. I think your answer to that question really proves that point, that girls' organizations are thinking through all of the ways that community members need to be kept up to date, need information, what information they need, and how you can really work to protect your communities. I do also want to pull out, you mentioned that you've been working on videos and skits as a way of education. And I know for these skits, we actually have one that we'd like to share. And this skit that we have is one that's in Mandinka, and it is starring you, which is why we chose it to share today. But since it is in Mandinka, would you be able to just share with us a little bit about what it is that we're about to watch, what's happening in the skit that we're about to see?
Yes, so it's a skit in Mandinka, and it was one of the first we produced because the majority ethnic group in the Gambia are the Mandinkas. So we produced that video, but also looked at what scenarios we know are playing in our homes right now, and all this information is something that we got basically looking at what the students were reporting to us and what they were struggling with. And so the skits were also programmed looking at how we can make it easy for them as we, challenge them to transfer the information we gave them. So it's basically looking at how you can talk to your mom or an elderly person about food and how to eat safely, given that the coronavirus is around. And so I was talking to my aunt, the other girl in the video, played the role of my mom. And so I was talking to her about how she can go to my mom, who is a guest in the house, and tell her that today we cannot eat communally. And so for a lot of people, maybe that is not the case, but in the Gambia, we like to eat together. It's one of the things that is seen as respect. It is believed that it's going to bring a lot of blessings in the house and togetherness. So everybody loves to eat, together. But given that we have to make some changes, with regards to people having their separate bowls, we did that skit to enlighten people on how they can go about the conversation. in a way that it doesn't bring tension in the house, or people don't see you as disrespectful, but they will know that you're taking those measures to save people's lives and your own life. So that was basically the conversation that happened in the skit.
Yeah, and just to clarify, so when you're saying that people eat together, it's actually out of one communal bowl, one communal dish.
Yes.
So that's where really some of the risk comes in for coronavirus. And so that's the conversation you're trying to navigate with people in your family who are older and who, are seeing that as really a sign of disrespect that you don't want to be eating communally.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's cue that video up so we can take a look.
Okay.
Namna. Let me see that. I'm studying. Hello, how are you? You can understand banking currently. Okay. Di ako katawan ko tala. Ayo. Okay. Okay, mo ko tonta bolti no kayam. Hina hani kan okay. Na. Na. Sina niyo banyin ko kuno ngani ko wala ni mo ila bolen din su. Madamoro ke wato. Ayo, to so sample baby singa madamoro ko bolti ko do. Anin na mo malo mo ifindi tay mane ni nalana nalo na ko dal bersila ambe jama mul ka ko ban ko be jama do muru bare ko ni mam na ban ko tankan ngan ni wal tankan ni bare ko ni na nyaade le ma fanta tante fo lo sina ni ko do sana jibe nya sana ndi tay aba faham le ani ni afa aba faham la fa sa faham afa ya wonya ma fa ko be ni mo le bersila sai mo do muru ki ni dalam ta yo ni pe para ti nuni ko dara nuni fitil me yo ko mo na bolo lo mo na la bolo ma ko nya masante problem ta yo na
One of the things I love about this, besides the fact that clearly you have a second career as an actor, should you want it, is that it gives young people a script. And so when they find themselves in these real life situations, they actually have, an example of the words that they can use and how that situation might go. And I know that these skits in particular were not just from the mentors' imaginations, but were actually from reporting that you got from students, right? About what was happening in their lives, what are the situations that they're facing and they're really struggling with. So if you are interested in the audience of seeing more of these skits, seeing more of the videos that Starfish has put together for their community, maybe it will spark some ideas for your own. You can visit their Facebook page where they're all listed at facebook.com/Starfish International. And when we talk about community organizations and grassroots organizations being well placed to fight the coronavirus, we're not just talking about that being the case in the Gambia. You can take these skills, you can take these ideas, and you can translate them to your own local community too. So if you're looking to do that, these are a great resource to understand how you might approach it. So Fatou Y, one of the other things I love about the videos, the translations that you're doing, the efforts that you're taking at large at Starfish is that they are youth-led. And even more than that, many of them are girl-led. And so I'd love for you to talk a little bit about how it came to be that so many initiatives at Starfish, both around coronavirus, but at large, really are youth-led.
Yes. So when Auntie Yasin started Starfish, it was her and Uncle David, and a few volunteers would come every year. But even before the mentorship program started on ground at Starfish, she used to invite young Gambian interns to come in and volunteer at Starfish. When the first batch of students graduated from Starfish, when we graduated high school, she gave us the opportunity to come back. So she started saying, you will run the public relations, you will run the library and all of that. And most of us were like, will we be able to do this? But I think over the years, it's just taken, first of all, trust. And because it's not like we haven't really made mistakes along the way, but it's just someone who is like, even if you fail, you can do this. And I think for Starfish's approach, especially putting girls in the forefront, is just basically using these girls as examples, using us as examples. Because it's one thing to tell someone, okay, if you educate your girl child, they're going to graduate high school, they're going to get a job, they're going to give back to their community, and they can do this and this. But it's another to be able to show them a real life example. So even when we have parent meetings, the mentors are showcased as people that the parents look at, and they're like, oh, I want my daughter to be like that. You see a girl running a clinic in the community, and they're like, oh, okay, my daughter can do this for community members. And so you see the smiles on their faces when they have this realization. So basically, Starfish, just even with the mentors, we all have our own mentees, and we have a student council as well. So we have the mentors after you have the administration, but really from them, even if the mentors don't come to work, we have the student leaders who can be able to run Starfish. And it's all geared towards making sure the youth in the organization who Starfish is, made for, really own the organization and they're able to run it. When Auntie Yasin is not around or the co-founders are not around, we take on the job and we do it. Otherwise, we would really not know how to do it. And I think it's another way of just transitioning us to take us into leading national development. So if we don't start at a smaller scale, it will be difficult to actually do it on a bigger scale. So that's basically what we've been up to, just training people and anchoring everything on character development, doing service with kindness, doing it with love, and being there for each other.
Yeah, at She's the First, we talk a lot about what it means for an organization to be girl-centered, which is really this idea that the programs are built up and based on the needs of girls and the voices of girls. Mm-hmm. And, mm-hmm. This idea, really a simple one, that you can turn to the girls in your program and you can say, okay, now you run the library, and give them the space to do that, I think is a really great example of what can happen when you allow the space for youth to lead. And so I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about, do you think that youth are underutilized in today's crisis?
Yes, definitely. I think so, because I think a lot of times when we think about the youth, we just picture them as this group of people, with complaints, and we also look at what they are not doing, instead of what they can do. So I think not just in decision making, but even when it comes to implementing projects, a lot of times, we include the youth, because when you say, okay, I'm working with youth, a lot of people are interested. But then when you gather the youth in one place, are you just focused on, at the end of the day, giving a report and saying, I've worked with 200 youths? Or are you really looking at what those 200 youths got from that meeting or from that training? So for me, basically, apart from utilizing them in the decision making and action taking, I think we need to also start with how are we investing in the youth? Because at the end of the day, you can come up with the idea of, oh, this youth cannot do this, or they cannot accomplish this community development, but it's because you haven't really given them the training and the time, and the love that they need. So definitely, I think youth are being underutilized. I think there is much more we can do. And I'm hoping, some of us that are able to showcase the world, people are going to learn from that, and they're going to embrace more people, more youth into, decision making, into leading organizations, because we are really the future. And you have to invest in us now in order to be able to see what we can do.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when you talk about investing more in youth and being more inclusive of their ideas and leadership, do you have kind of specific ways or recommendations that you would want to share?
Yes. I think the first that I would start with when it comes to the investment is to approach it holistically. And to not just focus on, okay, this youth is having a scholarship or an education, but every other area of their lives, and for me, I think the baseline of that first is virtuous learning, because I really think that is needed. And it's not just so you develop that youth into being able to interact with human beings, but it's also being able to give them a foundation for them to understand themselves to the core, to have a high self-esteem, to be able to understand themselves and where they want to go, in a way that even you as the mentor or the investor, when you are not around, that youth is able to, motivate themselves, and they're able to do something. So I think the investment should be directed to that, but as well, we should also look at other things like, I know a lot of times we give priority to formal education, being literate, but I think it's time that we also look at other areas of investment, such as, what we call the TVET, that is the technical and vocational education. Giving youth skills such as, maybe learning a business or something, because there are a lot of them that didn't get an education. So as we focus on those of them that are able to give beautiful speeches and all of that, we have to also.
Yeah. I think I might have lost Fatou Y there. I'm going to give our tech one moment. see if, I think we've lost her. Well, if I can finish up that thought for her, as we see if she can make her way back. I do think one of the most important things when we think about inclusion of youth, as Fatou Y was saying, is that we're not just thinking about a one-lane track, and that there's more to thinking about youth development and youth inclusion than getting them into school, getting them to get all top grades, getting them to graduate, getting them to go on to university. That we do have more options than that. Okay, let's see if we can get our comments, I think we wanted to bring up now. Mom Yasin Star is actually the co-founder of Starfish International, so this is a celebrity shout out. But it's true, right? Youth need more than just support to get an education. And that's why at She's the First, we're focused on not only girls' education, but also girls' rights, because we know how powerful that combination is. Girls, whether educated or not, deserve to have their full scope of rights and deserve to have them respected. So I do want to wrap up. We will say goodbye to Fatou Y in absentia and thank her for her time with us here today. And in case you tuned in late, these talks are part of our Front Row Fridays, which are in tribute to our Front Row, which is our monthly giving community. Right now, through Giving Tuesday, we do have a match. So if you want to join that community right now is a great time. I also do want to give a shout out. If you want to learn more about Fatou Y's work and about Starfish International, you can do that at starfishinternational.org. I also want to give some community shout outs today. So because this is in tribute to our Front Row members, I want to give a shout out to those who are celebrating an anniversary today, which includes Kim Nicola Lawrenson, Rachel Triglone, Athea Skin, and Becky Rutzkowski. And welcome to our new monthly donors, Christen Sprague, Margaret Shakuzi, Steph Flo, Sandra Bollinger, Erica Kalinowski, Anisha Kasla, Stephanie Kloku, Farah Clark, Amber Fields, and Gabby Smirlo. You are all part of what keeps She's the First running and moving and working for girls all around the world. So thank you for being part of the Front Row. And we'll see all of you back here again next week for another edition of Front Row Friday. Thanks for being part of this community. Bye.